Commander Elias Rourke woke up to the smell of smoke and burning wires. The emergency lights inside his ship blinked red. Sparks fell from the ceiling like fireflies. His head throbbed. His ears rang. He had crash-landed. He unbuckled himself and stumbled through the narrow corridors of his small scout ship, the Vanguard. The systems were offline. The engines were dead. Life support was holding, but barely. A cracked screen showed the name of the moon, Virex 9. Perfect, Elias muttered. Middle of nowhere. Virex 9 had been marked as a war grave. No one came here. It was quiet, cold, and haunted by the past. A major battle had taken place years ago, humans and aliens tearing each other apart. No survivors, no peace, just ashes. Elias grabbed his gear, an oxygen mask, a pistol, a scanner, and a flashlight. The air outside was toxic. He sealed his helmet and opened the hatch. A gust of wind greeted him, carrying the scent of metal and death. The landscape was a graveyard. Twisted remains of alien and human ships littered the land. Blackened skeletons of buildings reached into the sky like broken fingers. Strange shadows moved in the mist, but nothing solid showed on his scanner. He moved slowly, carefully. Every step echoed on the dry, cracked ground. He searched for supplies, tools, anything to help fix his ship. Then he saw it. Half covered in dust and rubble was a massive alien structure, tall, curved like a shell, its walls shimmering with faded energy. Symbols he couldn't read were carved into its surface. A palace? A temple? He didn't know. Curiosity pulled him forward. Inside it was dark and cold. The halls were silent except for the hum of broken tech. He passed empty armor suits, Zenthari, the enemy race from the war, tall, insect-like warriors. All dead now, or so he thought. As he entered a large chamber, his scanner beeped. Life detected. His heart jumped. He raised his pistol and followed the signal to the corner of the room. There, lying against a collapsed pillar, was a figure. She was injured. Her body shimmered with blue scales and silver armor cracked at the chest. A long, torn cape trailed. Behind her. Her eyes opened, golden and glowing with pain. She tried to lift her arm, a weapon forming from her wrist. Elias didn't shoot. Instead, he lowered his weapon, slowly. He reached into his bag and pulled out a water pack. He tossed it to her. She stared at him in disbelief. "Why? Help me," she asked through a broken translator. "I'm just a man," he said, "but I don't like seeing people die." For a long moment she said nothing. Then, with a shaking hand, she drank. The alien woman rested against the pillar, her breathing slow but steady. The water Elias gave her had helped, but she was still weak. Her armor was cracked. Her skin had cuts. She looked both dangerous and fragile. Elias kept his distance, but stayed nearby. He watched her carefully just in case. Her golden eyes followed him as he set up a small camp near the wall. He placed down a heater, some lights, and a scanner to watch for danger. The chamber was large, round, and broken from past battles. Bits of old tech and fallen statues lay around them. She spoke again, her voice low and tired. The translator, on her wrist, buzzed and clicked before turning her words into something he could understand. "You are human." Elias nodded. "Commander Elias Rourke, Earth Fleet." She said nothing for a while, just stared at him with those glowing eyes. Finally, she said, "I am Arak-Shal, Queen of the Zenthari." Elias blinked. A queen. He looked around at the ruined palace. This place had once been full of power, maybe glory. Now it was dust and silence. "You were the enemy," he said carefully. "So were you," she replied, her voice calm. "But you gave me water. No soldier does that." "I'm not here to fight anymore," Elias said. "I crashed, just trying to survive." She gave a weak smile, barely a twitch of her mouth. "Strange human." He handed her a small packet of food. She stared at it like it was poison, then slowly opened it and took a bite. Her eyes widened. It tastes not terrible. Elias chuckled. It's the best compliment Army rations ever got. They sat in silence after that. Outside, wind howled through broken walls. The stars above Virex 9 were cold and bright. This moon was forgotten by both humans and Zenthari, a place of ghosts. Elias checked her wounds. You're lucky. No infection yet. But you won't last long without help. I already accepted death, she said. Well, unaccept it, Elias said. I'm not burying you out here. She looked at him again, more closely this time. Why are you like this? No human has ever shown me kindness, not even once. I don't know, he said. Maybe because I've seen too much death. Maybe I'm tired of hating people I never met. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, You are strange, Commander Elias Rourke. He smiled. You can just call me Elias. Elias, she repeated, testing the name. The heater buzzed softly. The lights flickered. They were two survivors from different worlds, two enemies who had no reason to trust each other. And yet something had begun, not peace, not friendship, but the first crack in a wall built by years of war. The days passed slowly on Virex 9. Elias stayed inside the ruined palace, fixing what little equipment he had. His ship was too far to reach with the Queen in her weak condition, and the toxic air outside made every trip dangerous. So he stayed. And she stayed. Queen Arakshal spent most of her time resting. Her wounds were healing slowly, but she was still too weak to move much. Elias gave her food, water, and medicine. She never asked, but she never refused again. They spoke little, but something had changed. The silence between them was no longer cold, it was calm, even peaceful. Sometimes Elias talked just to fill the air. Back on Earth, I lived near a forest, big trees, real green, he said once while adjusting the broken translator drone. Birds used to sing every morning. You'd hate the noise. Arakshal tilted her head. I have never seen a tree. He looked at her, surprised. Never. I was born on a warship, she said. Raised in a palace. Trained for battle. Trees were in stories, not in life. Elias thought about that. A queen raised without nature, without peace, only war. No wonder we fought each other, he muttered. She didn't respond, but her eyes stayed on him longer than usual. One night a storm blew over the moon. Dust and ash filled the sky. The old palace walls groaned under the wind. Elias and Arakshal sat close to the heater. The power flickered. Then out of the blue she asked, Do you have family? Elias looked down. Had. My brother died in the first Zenthari attack. My parents followed a year later, bombing in Mars City. I see, she said quietly. You? My mate was a general. He fell in the second wave. My daughter died before birth. Poisoned air during the siege. Their eyes met. No more words were needed. They were both victims of a war they didn't start. Both had lost everything. And yet here they were, two survivors who should have been enemies, but had only each other. Later, while Elias worked on building a stronger radio beacon, Arakshal stood on shaking legs. He turned. You should rest. I need to move, she said. My strength will not return if I stay still. He walked over to help her, but she raised a hand. Let me try alone. He nodded. Step by step, she walked across the chamber, slow, painful steps. But she didn't fall. Elias smiled. Not bad, Your Highness. She gave him a small glare. Call me that again, and I will stab you. They both laughed. It was the first time either of them had laughed on this dead world. It was early morning, or what passed for morning on Virex 9. The sky above was a dull gray, the air thick with dust. Elias sat near the broken wall of the palace, checking his scanner. Every day he hoped to find a signal from a passing ship. This time the scanner beeped. Incoming signal, small vessel. Not human fleet. Not Centauri. Unknown. Elias stood up quickly. He looked toward the Queen, who was still resting by the heater. "We've got company," he said. She opened her eyes. "Friendly?" "Doubt it," he said. "Wrong kind of signal." Within hours, the sound of a landing ship echoed across the dead land. A sharp hiss followed as the ship touched the ground not far from the palace. Elias watched from behind a wall, binoculars in hand. The ship was black and rusted, with red lights glowing under its wings. "Tharn Syndicate," he muttered. Arakshal stood beside him now, holding onto the wall for balance. "Mercenaries. They take what they want, kill anyone in the way. If they're here, they probably picked up my distress signal." "Or mine," she said. "They will want my head." "Great," Elias said. "They'll be thrilled to find us both." From the ship, 4 figures stepped out, humanoids in patchwork armor. Their faces were hidden behind helmets. They carried heavy rifles and moved like predators. "We have to hide," Elias said. "No," Arakshal said firmly. "They will find us. This palace has few secrets." Elias thought quickly. "Then we fight." Arakshal looked at him. "You will fight? For me?" "I don't leave people behind," Elias said. "Even alien queens with sharp tongues." She almost smiled. Almost. Elias set up a trap near the main entrance using wires, broken parts, and a fuel cell from his ship. It wasn't perfect, but it would buy time. Then they waited. The mercenaries entered slowly, their weapons raised. They moved through the dark halls like shadows. One of them stepped on the trap. Boom. The explosion lit up the palace for a second. 2 mercs were down, but the other 2 survived. One shouted something in a harsh alien language. "They know we're here," Elias said. Arakshal stood beside him, holding a broken Centauri blade she had pulled from a wall. It was old, but still sharp. "I will fight," she said. "With you." Elias nodded. "Let's show them what 2 dead enemies can do." They ambushed the last 2 mercs near the throne room. Elias shot first, forcing them into cover. Arakshal moved like lightning, wounded but fierce, her blade cutting through armor with one powerful strike. In less than a minute it was over. The palace was silent again. Elias looked at her, breathing hard. "You're not bad for a queen." She looked at him, blood on her arm and dust in her hair. "You're not bad for a man." They both laughed, breathless, as the wind howled once more outside. The battle was over, but the danger was not. The dead bodies of the Tharn Syndicate mercenaries lay cold on the palace floor. Smoke still rose from the burned hallway. The air inside was thick with the smell of metal, dust, and fire. Elias sat down on a stone step, wiping sweat from his face. His hands were shaking. He had fought before, on many planets in many battles, but something about this fight felt different. This time, he wasn't just surviving. He had chosen to protect someone. Queen Arakshal leaned against a broken pillar nearby. She was wounded again, a cut across her side, deep but not deadly. Still, she said nothing about the pain. "You should rest," Elias said. "So should you," she replied. Elias chuckled. "Fair enough." He opened a medical pack and moved toward her. She didn't stop him this time. Gently, he cleaned the wound and wrapped it. As he worked, she spoke softly. "You didn't have to fight. You could have run." "I don't run," Elias said. "Not anymore." "Why?" she asked. "Why protect me? I was your enemy. I gave orders that killed humans." Elias looked up at her. "And humans gave orders that killed your people." She was silent. "I'm just a man," he continued, "but I've seen too many good people die. I won't be another killer following blind orders. You were hurt. Alone. That was enough. For me." Arakshal stared at him for a long time. "No soldier has ever said that to me before." Maybe it's time someone did. Outside, the wind began to calm. The ash in the sky slowly cleared. For the first time, a beam of sunlight broke through the clouds and touched the ruined palace. Elias looked at it and smiled. Maybe that's a good sign. Arikshal followed his gaze. On my world, we believed light after darkness meant the gods were watching. Do you still believe that? No, she said quietly. The gods stopped listening long ago. Elias stood and walked toward the open wall, scanning the horizon. We need a better plan. That signal from my ship, others might have heard it. If more mercs come, we won't be so lucky. There is a hidden place, Arikshal said. Deep beneath this moon, my people built it during the war. It holds old data, battle plans, communications, and maybe secrets. Secrets? Elias asked. She nodded. Proof of who truly started the war. Elias turned to her, eyes wide. That could change everything. Yes, she said, but it is far, dangerous. I've come this far, Elias said, picking up his gear. I'm not stopping now. Arikshal stood beside him. Then we go together. He smiled. Side by side. And so the human soldier and the alien queen walked into the unknown. Not as enemies, not yet as friends, but as two souls bound by something rare in the galaxy. Hope. The entrance to the hidden bunker was buried under ash and broken stone, far from the palace. Arikshal led the way, moving with slow but steady steps. Elias followed, keeping his weapon ready and eyes sharp. They walked through a narrow canyon filled with old wreckage. Some pieces were from Zinthari ships, others from human tanks rusted and broken, forgotten by time. This moon is full of ghosts, Elias said, looking around. No, Arikshal replied. It is full of truths waiting to be seen. They reached a large, cracked metal door half covered in rock. Arikshal placed her hand on a small, round plate near the edge. It lit up, scanning her palm. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a deep mechanical sound, the door slowly opened. Inside was darkness. Elias turned on his flashlight. The tunnel went deep into the ground. The walls were smooth and black, covered with strange, glowing symbols, Zinthari script. What does it say? He asked. It warns us, she said, that only those who seek peace should enter. Elias looked at her. Are we those people? I don't know, she whispered. But we have no choice. They stepped inside. The air grew colder as they walked deeper. The tunnel opened into a large chamber filled with old tech, glass screens, data banks, and machines covered in dust. Arikshal limped to a control panel and began typing commands. Elias watched the screen flicker to life. A series of old war files loaded, with dates from the early years of the human Zinthari war. This is it, she said. The truth. Elias leaned in. The screen showed video logs, transmission records, and secret orders. One file caught his eye. Operation Ash Spear, marked with a human military logo. He played it. A human general appeared on the screen, speaking to a room full of officers. We'll stage the attack to make it look like they fired first, the general said. If we want full support from Earth and Mars, we need the people to believe the Zinthari started it. Elias froze. Arikshal said nothing, her face cold. This can't be real, Elias whispered. It is, she replied. We knew, but no one believed us, not even our allies. Elias turned away, fists clenched. His brother had died in that war. His people had followed lies. All this time, we were the ones who lit the fire. Arikshal looked at him. Now you understand why I wanted to die. My people were destroyed by a war built on lies. Elias looked at the files again. He copied them onto a portable drive. We take this, he said, and we show the galaxy. You think they will listen? She asked. They have to, Elias said, because if they don't, we're doomed to repeat this all again. The two stood in silence, surrounded by the forgotten machines of war, holding proof that could change everything. Elias and Arakshal climbed out of the dark tunnel with the data drive in hand. The sky above was quiet, but not for long. Elias turned on his wrist scanner. His face turned serious. "What is it?" Arakshal asked. "Ship in orbit," he said. "Human, not rescue, military class." She narrowed her eyes. "They followed your signal." "Or yours," Elias replied. "Either way, they're coming." They hurried back toward the palace ruins, both limping slightly from old wounds. The wind had picked up again, sending ash into the air. Every step felt heavy now, not just because of their bodies, but because of the truth they carried. The top of a ridge, Elias spotted the drop pod falling from the sky like a burning comet. He cursed. "Too fast. We won't make it to my ship." "Then we hide," Arakshal said. "No," Elias said firmly. "If they find you, they'll kill you. And if they find me with you, they'll shoot first, ask later." She looked at him. "So what now?" Elias looked at the sky. He made a decision. "We split up," he said. "I'll draw them away." She frowned. "No. You have to make it out of here," he said, holding out the data drive. "Take this. Get to the outer hills. I buried a backup beacon there before. If you send the signal, someone will come. Someone who might listen." "And you?" she asked. He smiled, but it was tired. "I'm just a man, remember? We make distractions." She stared at him, then took the drive slowly. "If you die—" "I won't," he interrupted, then paused. "But if I do, make sure they see the truth." She nodded. No more words were said. Elias gave her a last look, then turned and ran toward the western ridge, leaving tracks behind him on purpose. The drop pod landed with a loud boom, and 6 human soldiers stepped out in full combat armor. Their leader scanned the area. "Life. Signs detected. 1 human. 1 unknown," he said into his comm. "Orders?" asked another soldier. "Find the alien. Eliminate if hostile. The human? Bring him in." Elias watched them from a distance. Then he fired a shot into the air and shouted, "Over here!" The soldiers turned at once and began chasing him. Meanwhile, Arakshal moved through the eastern valley, quiet as a shadow. She clutched the drive tightly. The truth of the war was now in her hands. She glanced back once toward the ridge where Elias had disappeared. He was risking everything. For her, the enemy queen. No one had ever done that before. As the wind blew across the dead moon, Arakshal whispered softly to herself, "You're not just a man, Elias. You are the only one who helped me." The sound of gunfire echoed through the broken valleys of Virex 9. Elias ran through the ash-covered hills, zigzagging between rocks and dead trees. Behind him, the human soldiers followed fast. They moved like machines, armor shining, rifles ready. He ducked behind a boulder and breathed hard. His leg was bleeding from a shot that grazed him, but he didn't stop. "Keep going," he told himself. "Give her time." Far away, Arakshal moved through the eastern hills, holding the data drive close to her chest. Her body was weak, but her steps were steady. The backup beacon Elias had told her about was close. She remembered his words. "Find the signal tower buried under the rock arch. It's marked with a blue tag." She spotted the arch ahead, a jagged, twisted stone curve. Beneath it, half covered in sand, was a small box with blinking lights. She dropped to her knees and dug it out. Back on the western ridge, Elias fired a few warning shots, then ran again. His ammo was low. His lungs burned. But he smiled anyway. Every second he bought was another second for her to escape. Suddenly, a grenade exploded behind him. The blast threw him forward. His head hit a rock, and everything went black for a moment. When he opened his eyes, the soldiers were standing over him. "Don't move," said one. "You're under arrest for aiding an enemy combatant." Elias laughed weakly. "Too late. She's already gone." The commander stepped forward. Where is the alien queen? Elias didn't answer. The soldier raised his weapon. Last chance. Before he could pull the trigger, a sharp sound came from the soldier's radio. Unknown signal detected. Transmission beacon active. Origin East Quadrant. The commander turned. Find it now. Elias smiled again, even with blood on his lips. Told you. Too late. Meanwhile, Arakshal stood over the beacon. It was active now, blinking fast, sending out a message across space. The drive had been inserted and the truth was being broadcast. Not just a rescue signal, but proof. Proof of the lies, proof of the betrayal, and maybe a chance for peace. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. One soldier had broken away and found her. He aimed his gun. Step away from the device. She didn't move. The soldier came closer. I said, step away. Arakshal stared at him. Do you know what this is? Doesn't matter. Orders are to kill. The moment he pulled the trigger, a shot rang out from behind. The soldier dropped, dead. Behind him stood a young officer, gun smoking, eyes wide. I heard the message, he said. I saw the files, everything. He looked at her with fear and something else. Regret. She didn't speak. She just nodded once. Far away, Elias lay on the ground, smiling faintly as another soldier checked the same broadcast on his wrist screen. One by one, the lies were being uncovered, and the galaxy was beginning to listen. The signal flew across space faster than light, reaching satellites, deep space relays, and military channels. It carried the truth. Real video, old voice logs, and secret orders proving that humans had started the war. At first, many ignored it. But then people began to watch. Citizens on Mars, Earth, and Titan saw the human general confess to staging the first attack. Some cried. Some grew angry. Some refused to believe. But the truth had escaped the shadows. Back on Virex 9, the human soldiers who had captured Elias stood in silence, watching the broadcast on their wrist displays. One soldier lowered his weapon. We were lied to, he whispered. Their commander looked down at Elias, who lay bleeding on the ground. You knew, the commander said coldly. Elias looked up with tired eyes. Now you know too. The commander gave no reply. Instead, he walked away, talking into his comm. Moments later, a medical drone was called down from the orbiting ship. As it landed nearby, Arakshal arrived at the scene, limping but alive. A few soldiers turned their weapons toward her, but none fired. The young officer who had saved her stepped forward. Stand down, she's not our enemy anymore. One by one, the soldiers lowered their weapons. Arakshal looked at Elias. He was pale, weak, but still breathing. She knelt beside him. You did it. They saw. Elias gave a faint smile. Told you, I'm good at distractions. She placed her hand on his chest gently. You're more than that, you changed everything. The medical drone began treating him, sealing the wounds and injecting him with healing nanites. It would take time, but he would live. For the first time in years, Arakshal felt something new in her heart. Hope. Above them, the human ship hovered in silence. Then, after a few minutes, a new voice came over the comms, an older man, calm and clear. This is Admiral Juno of the Terran Peace Council. We received the transmission. We are coming down to talk. Elias turned his head. Peace Council? I thought they were just a myth. Arakshal looked at the sky. Maybe they were, but the truth woke them up. The commander of the ground unit looked confused. What now? Elias replied, Now you stop pointing guns at people who want peace. And start asking who gave the orders that started it all, Arakshal added. The wind on Virex 9 began to slow. The sky grew lighter, as if even the clouds knew the war had shifted. For the first time in many years, a Terran soldier and a Xanthari queen stood together, not as enemies but as survivors. And the galaxy, watching from afar, began to wonder, If they can stand together, what excuse do we have not to? 3 days later, the skies above Virex 9 were calm. Ships from both sides, Terran Peace Council and the Zenthari Alliance, landed near the old palace ruins. They came without weapons raised. For the first time in decades, the two races walked the same land without shooting each other. Elias sat in a medical shelter, his wounds slowly healing. He watched through a window as delegates from both sides gathered in a circle to talk. No guns, no shouting, just voices. He still couldn't believe it. Arakshal entered quietly, now dressed in clean silver robes instead of armor. Her side was bandaged, but she walked tall. "They're listening," she said. "I can see that," Elias replied with a smile. "The files you recovered, they changed everything." Elias looked down at his hands. "I never thought I'd do something like that. I was just a soldier, just trying to survive." She sat across from him. "You were more than that. You were the first to see me not as a threat, but as someone worth saving." He laughed softly. "You stabbed me the first time we met," she smiled, "and you still helped me. That says something." Outside, the talks continued. Leaders argued, questioned, and struggled to believe the truth. Some still called for justice, some still felt hate. But others, many others, asked for something different. Forgiveness. Peace. Wasn't easy. Not for humans, not for Zenthari, but it was starting. Later that night, Elias stood beside Arakshal at the edge of a cliff. Below, the stars reflected off frozen lakes untouched by war. "Where will you go now?" he asked. "My people need a voice," she said. "I will speak for them. I will make sure we are not forgotten." "And you?" she asked. Elias looked up at the stars. "I don't know. I spent most of my life following orders. Now I finally have a choice." She stepped closer. "You could come with me." He looked at her, surprised. "You helped me. Maybe you can help others too." She added, "We don't need more soldiers. We need bridge builders." Elias nodded slowly. "Bridge builder. I never saw myself that way." "You should." There was silence between them, but not the kind that felt empty. It was peaceful. Then Elias asked the question that had been on his mind since the day they met. "Why did you say it?" She tilted her head. "Say what?" "That day, when I helped you in the old throne room, you said, 'You are the only one who helped me.'" "Why?" Arakshal looked at him with calm, glowing eyes. "Because I was a queen with power, armies, and titles, but no one saw me as a person. Until you. You didn't just help me survive. You helped me remember who I was." Elias took a deep breath. "Then let's help others do the same." Together, the human and the alien stood side by side. Not as enemies, not as heroes, but as two people who chose something rare in a galaxy full of war: understanding.